your party announced that the first Republican debate will be in August in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Will candidates be required to sign a pledge saying that they will support whomever becomes the nominee in order to get on that debate stage?
We haven't put the criteria out, but I expect a pledge will be part of it. It was part of 2016. I think it's kind of a no-brainer, right? If you're going to be on the Republican National Committee debate stage asking voters to support you, you should say, I'm going to support the voters and who they choose as the nominee. As RNC chair, if I said I wouldn't support the Republican nominee, I would be removed from office. I would. I'd be rightly removed. It'd be part of our bylaws, and I would be kicked out as RNC chair. Anybody getting on the Republican National Committee debate stage should be able to say, I will support the will of the voters and the eventual nominee of our party.
I want you to listen to what former President Donald Trump said a couple of weeks ago in an interview with conservative radio host Hugh Hewitt on this very topic.
If you're not the nominee, will you support whoever the GOP nominee is?
It would depend. I would give you the same answer I gave in 2016 during the debate. It would have to depend on who the nominee was.
So are you prepared to block the former president?
Well,
if he
signed it in 2016. He did. Everybody signed it in 2016.
But this is about the here and the now. He didn't commit to it.
I think they're all going to sign it. I really do. I think the voters are very intent on winning, and they do not want to see a debate stage of people saying, I'm not going to support this guy, I'm not going to support this guy. What they need to say is, I'm going to do everything I can to defeat Joe Biden. And that means supporting the nominee of the Republican Party.
You can't see a scenario where Donald Trump would just skip the debate if he's forced to sign something saying to support others?
I think they're all going to want to be on the debate stage. I think President Trump would like to be on the debate stage. That's what he likes to do, and I expect they'll all be there.
I want to look at it sort of from the other side of this, which is that others who are not Donald Trump, potential candidates like former Governor Asa Hutchinson, they're not happy about this requirement. He said, quote, for leaders such as myself who believe Donald Trump is not the right direction for the country, and I said specifically that January 6th disqualified him, that would certainly make it a problem for me to give an across-the-board inclusive pledge. How do you make candidates like him, given the reality of what has happened on January 6th, go against what he's saying is his principle?
I think you support the voters. The voters get to choose. And if the Republican voters pick the nominee, then everybody on that debate stage who is running on the Republican National Committee debate and the Republican National Committee primaries should say, I'm going to support the nominee. Listen, I say this all the time, Dana. I am Mitt Romney's niece, and I was appointed to the RNC by Donald Trump. And I would support both of them if they were the nominee of our party over Joe Biden. But I don't know if they would support each other. We have to come together as a party. We saw big races lost this cycle because of Republicans refusing to support other Republicans. And unless we fix this in our party, unless we start coming together, we will not win in 2024. And I am committed to making sure we come together as a party.
Understandable. But at the same time, what you hear somebody like Asa Hutchinson, he's no moderate. I mean, he is a tried and true conservative Republican, effectively saying is, you would be asking him to put party over country. You would be asking him to put party over country.
I don't see it that way. That may be how he sees it. I don't see it that way. I think if the voters choose Donald Trump to be the nominee, if they choose Mike Pence, if they choose Mike Pompeo or Asa Hutchinson, everybody should support the will of the voters. And we're not going to defeat Joe Biden if we get in this tit for tat of, I'm not going to support this nominee or I'm not going to support this one. So that's why we want to put this to bed early. This is a pledge that's been in existence. It was there in 2016, and we should make sure that every candidate on the Republican National Committee debate stage does what I have to do, which is support the nominee of our party.
One more question on this. How do you enforce it? Once you get to the point where there is a presumptive nominee, the debates are going to be over. So how do you even enforce this?
We're saying you're not going to get on the debate stage unless you make this pledge. And I think people in our party really want to see that. They want to see us come together. They don't want the infighting. And by the way, it's not a good look, right? If we're fighting each other, what young person, I think of my 17-year-old and my 19-year-old, they don't want to see a Republican Party fighting. They want to see us talk about how we're going to make their lives better. They're going to come out of college with a job. We're going to tackle the border. We're going to tackle fentanyl. They don't want to see us infighting. Let's talk about issues. That's what we need to get back to, and that's how we're going to win in 2024.
Any other requirements that you believe should be there when it comes to a threshold on polling?
I think there should be a threshold, and that makes sense. We'll get that out probably closer
what do you think
to the debate. I'm going to
3%,
not get
5%?
ahead of our debate committee. We've been talking about this for a year and a half, but there should be some threshold. The Democrats had that in 2016. You want to make sure that people are on the debate stage who are running for president. We don't want people running for book deals or media contracts or cabinet positions. We want people there who are running for president of the United States.
Can you promise, when we're talking about promises now, that whomever the Republican nominee is ultimately will accept the results in 2024?
I expect that they will accept the results in 2024. I don't know who that person is right now, but yes, we're going to accept the results. And we're going to move forward and work to govern this country. But I think they're going to accept the results because they're going to be the president.
You talked about book deals and other reasons why maybe some candidates have historically wanted to get on the stage other than actually thinking that they could be president. We could have a pretty big stage.
It could be a big stage.
Do you think that's good for the party to have more voices, or will it make it harder to do what you're saying, which is unify the party?
Oh, I think it speaks about the deep bench we have. I mean, we have so many great governors, senators, congressional members, business leaders, a former president. We have such a great bench of candidates. I look at the Democrats, what they're doing to limit any competition to Biden. Look at the fact that they just changed their entire primary schedule. They made sure that New Hampshire is gone from being the first of the nation primary. Why? Because Joe Biden came in 8th. So that is a president who's weak, who's worried about competition from his own party, and we have a broad bench ready to run for president.
Just one sort of philosophical question that I've
Sure.
been wanting to ask you. You've seen Florida Governor Ron DeSantis taking a really hands-on approach when it comes to the agenda on what's going on in schools, for example, more cultural issues, pushing to ban funding for diversity and inclusion programs at public university, banning gender studies, trying to stripping Disney of some of its authority for those reasons. You also see some conservatives saying that's the wrong approach. That is not the way the conservative philosophy should be because we want government out of your life. What's your philosophy?
I think that's going to be up to the voters as we get closer into this process at the state level or the national level. They take that to their voters. I will say, as a mom from the state of Michigan, my kids were masked. They were out of school for 2 years. They're dealing with deficits. I've seen this in our community. I wish we had a state like Florida where kids, my nieces, were in school. They got the education they deserved. I think Republicans in general are looking out for kids, things like school choice, making sure that kids have access to good education.
You accused President Biden of using scare tactics when it comes to Republicans wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare. Mike Pence, this past week, who's widely expected to run for president, said that he believes that he respects the Speaker's commitment to take Social Security and Medicare off the table for the debt ceiling, but that in the long term, they should be on the table. Is that the right approach?
Medicare and Social Security are off the table. Speaker McCarthy has said this. Leader McConnell has said this. This is not up for negotiation. And I'm not going to give the Democrats any leverage on this.
Is that what Mike Pence is doing?
I think Speaker McCarthy and Leader McConnell have said it's off the table. And to see President Biden go in front of the American people and try and scare them was something that he knew wasn't true. It was a lie. Republicans are going to make sure that we honor our commitment to Social Security and Medicare.
Before I let you go, I want to ask about something that's going on in your home state of Michigan, which is the person who took your old job. You were chair of the party in Michigan, Christina Caramo. She is an election denier. She, on January 6th, talks about the conspiracies that happened. She lost her Secretary of State race by double digits. Does she represent your party? And will her presence as head of the party in Michigan hurt your chances in that very important state?
You know, I don't know her very well, and I wasn't at this recent convention. So the delegates chose Christina, but I'm committed to Michigan. It's my state. I wish you were talking about the power being out. We had no power for 4 days. We still have 230,000 people in our state with no power right now, but we have a Senate seat. We have House seats. I love our great state, and the RNC is absolutely committed to Michigan.
And should election denialism be a thing of the past in order to win places like Michigan, especially given
if there's a problem with an election, we should be able to talk about that. And I do think you should be able to say, hey, tabulator machines
What about
went
2020?
down. But I think we should be able to talk about issues that we see in elections. We should always be able to talk about that. I don't think we should be able to, we should remove that from the conversation if people aren't
Absolutely.
getting ballots or not able to vote.
No question, but I'm talking about the
looking
past
forward.
election.
I'm looking forward to 2024 and how do we win the Senate when we have a much better map? How do we keep the House and how do we win the presidency? And I will say the path forward is a united Republican Party. We've got to find our way to be there. That's what I want to be as a leader. I'm going to talk positively. I'm going to be optimistic. And I want to make sure that we're putting a vision forward that lets young people and women and other people look at our party as something that they aspire to be part of.